Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'm Osama one of the ambassadors of One State. Thank you for inviting me here to open an embassy here of One State in Oslo. One State is a small country between the sea and the Jordan River. In this moment, we have big attack there from the Palestinian and the Israeli. These two groups in the state, they occupy the country and they don't let us to live in freedom because it's base of this conflict about the nationality groups in this country. But actually, One State, it's a mosaic. We have different culture there. We are not Palestinians and Israelis. We just only the big community, big two community there. Israel, we have Gypsy, we have Druze, we have many different of church of Christian there. We have many different of Jews there, and also Muslim there. We have Ahmadi, we have Sunni, and we have Druze, and we have the Arman as a different church. To do two solutions, it's mean to keep the conflict. Actually, the conflict starts from the two solutions. As I showed before, how Israel want to have this country look and how Palestine want to have this country look with this mix of colors, and actually not belong to anybody from the people from originally from there, because the idea is totally new. The idea of two solutions is totally new. It's even not 100 years ago. It started the British after the Ottoman Empire, and you can see it in the end of the film, how is Jerusalem now upside down. And what we try to do in this, what we want to show in this film, if it's the history, it doesn't change. If it was 100 years ago, and we think a little bit. If we want to live together, we want to fight together. In One State, actually it's an art project. I started with an Israeli artist called Tal Adler, and we opened an embassy in Vienna as a first project. We invent a flag. In the beginning, was against the state itself, but people they have small. We like to be in some box, and because this country it brings a lot of culture to the world. You know, we invent the idea of one God. It's come from this country. Judaism the idea come from this country. Christians come from this country. The Muslims, Muhammad, he need to travel through this country to meet God. This country is something else, something special. And our project, maybe if we want to think about the future as one state, we don't want to be one state between the Jordan River and the sea. We want to be the whole world. And this is our idea, to start from a country where you have a conflict there, to send a new message to the world. We can live together because we are in the same land as a human. And I'm happy to be invited here to open a next embassy in Vienna, in Oslo. And I will I give you as a present our flag. This is the One State. You can put it through the Muslim, you can see the Muslim, you can put it through the Jewish, you can see Jewish, you can put it everywhere. We don't have a color of flag, white. Thank you. Keep it.
Yeah, I'm sure that many people want me to explain what I've just seen. Of course, we have had a workshop, and we have now shown some of the things that we have been able to produce during the workshop. And the idea has been to try to create out of situation of today, take it to the extreme. So we have started to work with a dystopia version that really most of the things that are said are either based on a true story or are direct quotes from Israeli politicians and so on. And the other strain is, or way, has been to try to create a utopia. So I have been thinking aloud about how community should look like, ideally. And we also quoting from history of socialist utopia and so on. Yeah. And using real places in Palestine as and project as a starting point. And we've invited you also because you're inside this way of thinking that maybe we can use the Palestine-Israeli conflict as a point of departure, about not only centering on the Palestine issue, which is of course extremely important, but also because it's such a focus on how to find a solution, it can be a good starting point from trying to find general solutions in politics or for humanity and so on.
Yeah, this was one of the discussion between me and Tal. Because normally art, it's marking the good thing or the bad thing in the culture. But art, until now, it doesn't take part to give a solution. And this is what we try to do. To think as artists also can take, they cannot be all the time, all the history of to be an artist and to be neutral, you know. You're just marking the bad thing with the good thing from the culture, and you don't offer like I don't want to call it agenda, but like a solution. It's to talk about the conflict, who started, and who is it a shame. It's not the problem. The problem is to find a solution, because you wanna. It's people going to live after us, you know. And maybe they will laugh about us. And I hope so. In a stupid way, they will say they were stupid. You know. In the time of the Nazi time, it was everybody think it's a good idea. It's an Auschwitz, and now people grown up and thinking it's different, and this is what we wish in the future. We try to put, you know, like a seed sort of thing. Maybe it's all good.
Do you want to fill in what I was saying?
No, I was more curious to hear like your reactions to the reading we just did. All right. What's your thoughts on it? As you came in yesterday. Quickly.
You know, you said if you want to do it now, not tomorrow. And I spent many years of my life dealing with this conflict in my art, and I get tired in somewhere, because it's everywhere. Every time you go and you try to work for peace, you will not find support if you deal with one state. Be pro-Palestinians, you will get money. Be pro-Israelian, you will get money. Be neutral and try to make peace, nobody will support you. And this you can see it, try it in any project, you will see it. Now I have a trick as an artist, you know, you have a trick. You write about the two solutions, and you can do money for one solution.
Shall we open already for questions, maybe?
If somebody have a question about one state or about...
The setting is quite open. We can talk about one-state solution, two-state solution. We can talk about utopia. Let's just follow how it's the course of the evening. Anybody has any reactions on how what we've done provoke them or make them think?
What we've been discussing is like, okay, of course this is not a finished piece. It's like a 1 week's work. So we are not interested in that sense in all the aesthetic things that you could imagine differently. Because of course, but this is like a first spark, and it's like the good thing about this place is it's like deadline works. You get a deadline and you produce a lot of stuff, and it's a good engine. So it's more like how did it plant some kind of new thoughts, or what was possible to receive, which is more interested in the aesthetic judgment at this stage.
Could I just say that I think the main idea, I think the main idea is marvelous, very good. To use the theater room space as a space of possibility, to try to spell out the different possibilities. Are there any possibilities? Brightly. I think that's a very good idea. And I think, aesthetically said, I think the start was nice. It wasn't easy to hear everything. But I missed a sort of consequence. If there is an utopia, if there is a one state solution, how can we see that? Where does it come into the play? Or, yeah, well, that's it.
I mean, I can tell you about way of changing, you know. Way of changing, it's always start from inside. I started with myself. When I grown up a little bit and I start to know who I am and where I come from, I was so interested to know what is the other side. And then I went to Israel in a secret way. So I went past the border and I lived there some years until I speak good Hebrew. And also I get the shock culture, because what I was imagining, it's not what I see. And I also did it later in my personal life. And I get married with Israeli women, and I have a daughter, and for me, this is my private future. We have a mixed daughter, and we live in peace, we are happy. I think peace, it should start from the personals, and then maybe the country follow us. Maybe the system. If you will wait until the best come from USA, I am sure USA, they are interested to produce more weapons in the next 100 years. They are not interested in peace. Peace, it's come from inside, not from outside. Maybe you could play the other game, not like Oslo, you know. Oslo agreement, he take the leaders and give them Prize Nobel and give them a little bit money. I think if you buy the Palestinian people and the Israeli people, and it's enough money coming every year to this conflict to keep in the conflict. But you can't change the people if you send them the money in the right way. Why Israel is getting $3 million in America, but she need to buy weapons from this money? It means Israel, she need to be in conflict. And this is not good for the Israeli itself, because nobody want to live soldier all his life. For me, I would not like to be a soldier all my life, because now the Israeli, how it's built now, it means they're going to fight all this life. And I'm sorry, PLO, yeah, I don't know how is the right in translation to English, but PLO, it means fighting to make Palestine free. And I'm sure people fighting 65 years to make Palestine free and getting rich, they don't want to make it free. They want to make it more like this, because now it's getting money. It's a good business. Why to stop it? In the both sides. In the Palestinian side, as a government, all of them come from military, and the Israeli is the same. The problem is military. And I'm sad Israel producing weapons also, but the Palestinians don't produce weapons, but somebody sell us weapons. Sell us, I don't know, technology. We have sun, we have Dead Sea, special nature, we have really nature that doesn't exist in somewhere. We have a culture, and historically, you know, as for tourists, we can live fucking rich. You know, we have 2 million Christian, they want to see where is Jesus walk in this country, and we have 2 million of Muslims, they want to see where is Muhammad when, and Jewish is the same. We can't be a fit and rich country if we want to live in peace. But to control people, you need the agenda. You need the agenda, and if you have agenda, you can control people. You can take people from after the Holocaust, they're already in shock, put them somewhere and tell them, fight now. And this is what happened. And also the Palestinians, PLO, they just take the refugee and use them. Nobody built for them another, a pipe of khaki water, you know, until now. They just want to make them, they want to bring them back, but nobody want to bring them back, and nobody let them to leave until they come back. I'm sorry, but peace starts from inside. If you want to make peace of somebody, you just go. You don't wait until somebody else comes.
Yeah, to say just a little bit about the peace, of course, the idea is to elaborate more on the different way of handling conflict. Like this is something we will work with. We interview people and so on for the next part of the project. And really, what we feel that we can do, I think I can say that, is that we can use this stage to try to talk to people, no? And not only politicians. Because if you go to the Palestine, there's a lot of different versions. But if you go, for instance, to the South Hebron Hills, where it's in Area C, where it's complete destitution, they say, this is not our problem, this is your problem, this is a European problem. Because of the Holocaust, because of the independence and so on.
It's easy to throw the ball to another side. It's easy.
And
if you want to feel good with yourself, it's easy to say the
yeah,
other side.
But this is one, and Norman Finkelstein, Noam Chomsky says it's an American problem, and what I try to say now is really that it's all our problem. It's the Palestinian problem. It's also our problem. It's both. So I think this is what we will try to do with the piece, to make it like a place for contemplation, for not only for people being like Finkelstein, extremely only interested in the Israel-Palestine conflict, but for thinking about how to change a conflict in general also.
It's a problem, again, I would say, if you want to change something and you don't, and it's something exists from PDF, it's called the boycott between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And if you don't talk, artists and academic people, they don't want to discuss this together, this topic, is the only people can make a solution is the military, because the military, they don't stop. The Palestinians and the Israelis, they don't stop talking with each other. And now you just want to stop the other artists and the academic people not talking together, and you will never get to good solution. And the only people as a Palestinians, I see them, they will maybe understand me. The artists thinking like me, or academic people, they can read something else, not about Israel and Palestine. But I'm not sure it's a boycott for artists, against artists. It will help the Palestinians first, yeah, because I come from there, and I don't see it's help anybody else. If these people don't talk with each other, who is it will talk each other? And then the military, they will anyway they do these things.
Do you want to say something about
Yeah,
that? Or?
maybe I can say something. By making these videos, this is from a trip I've been taking around in Palestine and Israel, and there's many people here who is trying to suggest something. As the consequences are kind of, is there a solution? And he says two-state problem, and maybe the one state is a problem, or is it a solution?
It's a solution.
Yeah, and there is some activity going on, because I mean, one thing is to make this theater piece, which is more like this is hopeless, or there is no way to go. You have a lot of statements. One state is maybe the solution. I mean, when I was traveling around and interviewing all these people and using cameras, there was, for example, Stav Shafir, the woman with the red hair, She's in the parliamentary now, and she's leading, or she's inside the financial committee and looking into kind of corruption or kind of in the military. So there was a lot of money that was not accounted for. So she was actually investigated in that thing. And that opens up what the military is doing. That's one inside Israel, which is very important. Breaking the silence, the soldier, he is one of 1,000 witnesses talking about being at the West Bank, which is more like harassing. It's not security, it's only harassing to get these people out, making life hell for them. I mean, so, and there's a lot of other people talking about, for example, the PA, the Palestinian Authority, to make them, to abolish that whole idea coming from the Oslo Accords, the two-state solution, that there should be a kind of puppet government in Palestine. If you abolish that thing, then maybe something happens. As Hanan Ashrawi told me, the PLO woman, that it has to get worse before it can become better. So without the money support for this idea of a state, Israel has to take the responsibility. And Yossi Berlin, another guy I interviewed, he was saying that the strongest key the Palestinian has is to give the key back, this kind of government, and just abolish it and say, Israel, take responsibility.
Yes. If you occupy some country, if you
yeah?
occupy some people, if you put people in the jail, you need to feed them. You need to give them food and drink.
Yeah, they have a responsibility for the whole population. So, I mean, is something going to happen, or is it going to be the status quo, you know? So maybe this kind of theater piece that we are developing here, and maybe traveling around it, should involve this kind of small tricks to do something to get further. I mean, you as an audience should maybe say something about, is this the kind of hopelessness? They are bombing them, and we see dead bodies and everything. Or do you get any sparks for, is there a solution somewhere in this piece? I mean, shouldn't that be a kind of line for the future? I'm curious.
I had another question before responding to the bombings, but that was a question about contextualization for the whole production. Why do we see this in Oslo? Is it important that this is, because I'm in Oslo now, I could have been in Palestine, Israel to see this, I could be, so are there anything at stake for you as Norwegian doing this, showing it to us in Oslo? When I was in Palestine and Israel, especially in Palestine, Oslo was a word they didn't want to mention at all. It gave so many bad connotations, and I would think that is maybe something that we in Oslo also could take more seriously when we deal with this conflict. That we live in a city that really has produced something. So that's not a question, it's just a suggestion, and it has to do to contextualize this, that something is at stake for me living in Oslo when I see this. So I would like you to comment on that.
Yeah, I can first say that I'm ashamed of being here in Oslo and having this consequence of this kind of cover-up of the peace negotiations, which make the occupation just further. And this is part of a documentary film coming maybe this year or later. It's just called Beyond the Oslo Process. It has to go further, and it has to be ashamed about this.
And we, this morning, or not this morning, how do you say? At noon we cut half the piece away to save your time. But we also discussed, because in a way the Oslo Agreement is synonymous with the two-state solution. In that sense, having Terje Rød-Larsen defending the two-state solution, in the same quotes earlier we had defending the Oslo process, and he's maybe the only one who says proudly that this is a great success. So there are other people, but in a way we wanted, if you start looking back at the Oslo process, you're looking backwards. But as the Oslo process and the two-state solution is two sides of the same, or it's like synonymous. The two-state solution didn't exist before the Oslo. So we thought if we criticize the Oslo process, we're looking backwards. If we criticize the two-state solution and start talking about the one-state solution, and of course there is more material and there are like you say, the academians working together, trying to actually make, they published this like report or a book, like how could it actually look? From an Israeli perspective, economics, security, to have one state with equal rights for all citizens. And they go through all the sectors and try to work together. So it's, the people are working on it, and that is, I guess, which is one of the things we could focus on in a further. It's like to get those voices who have actually made very specific, like how should that look, to present that. But then we need some money to go back.
No, we don't need much.
Now we're going back.
There was more questions, wasn't there?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. This is very nice thought to get one state in this global world, but it is very difficult to find this idea in reality, in practice. I'm just wonder that can we escape or exclude our global politics, global interest, global business to get or make peaceful world today? Is it possible to bypass the interest of the powerful countries or powerful business actors in this world? Is it possible in practice? Thank you very much.
I would like to answer. It's not so much of this in Norway, no? But in Spain, where I also live part of time, you can say in the kind of leftist tradition at the moment, there are two directions that are very apparent. There's one direction which is famous in Norway too, I think, which is the Podemos, the new kind of political parties, Ganemos, which is happening now, which is an open list, which is not a political party, that are trying to go straight for the power. And will have to, like you say, if they get the power, like Syriza, if they get the power in Greece in the end, we'll have to fight with all these international state agreements and so on, that, you know, international trade agreements and so on, that is a very big difficulty. And then you have the other tradition, you can say, that is the autonomous communities, which is a very strong tradition, especially in Spain, which I'm very interested in as well. I'm actually a bit a part of both of these movements, which think the completely opposite way, and which we have nothing of, in Norway, almost nothing. We have some people, of course, which is to think that we just make a parallel society, and then with time, this idea will grow, and it will change the world, which is what we also kind of make a parallel here, that it's almost like a messianic idea, you know, like Buddhism was, and so on. So I don't know if it's an answer, but it's like an outlay of a situation, a parallel situation in Spain.
But I would like to just starting the personal, you know. Tali Shafiro, the woman who was the very this thin woman here with this curly hair. She lives in Ramallah, like 5 Israelis, that's all, in that whole city. So she's kind of got in there, it's not allowed, and she has a partner, a Palestinian partner. So it's starting on a personal level for her, and she's very active as an anarchist. But I wonder how many people should there be before it's a critical mass? I mean, 5 people.
I mean, you know, somewhere it's a normal song. You know, if you're angry about somebody, they will tell you, "Oh, fuck you." You know, I mean, if the Palestinian and the Israeli, they will fuck each other, and it will be a sixth revolution. I am sure the next generation will be one state.
About 30 years ahead.
Yes.
Just a second. Yeah.
You mentioned about the one state, two state. Something dawned on me when I was there for the first time in September. There is one nation which kind of came out of apartheid in South Africa. There's quite a lot of inspiration to be taken from South Africa because they are living in a kind of peace. There is problems there, but there is it was a huge shock for me when I went there to see that there is a harmony there. Or at least there is the seeds of it. Isn't there some inspiration to be taken from South Africa and what happened 20 years ago?
Maybe you can answer that. There's an answer coming up on the first row.
Yeah, I mean, this is about Kairos, Palestine, and where Tutu is writing in the forward, and where they are calling the wall the apartheid wall, and also using the reconciliation process in South Africa as a model. So it's often mentioned in the vision and in the dream that could be possible to follow that road. Was that what you also wanted to answer?
And also she refers to the Kairos document of the Kairos Palestine, which is inspired by the Kairos in South Africa, which is like a Christian movement for justice, basically, and introducing the necessity for a just peace and not just a peace. And one of the most inspiring things about South Africa is that in this book they describe when the churches around the world got engaged in the fight for justice in South Africa. It took 10 years. Because, especially in the US and Canada, the church is so powerful. So the Kairos Palestine is working to engage, because the church is normally not so political, but it's a very strong force. And that is very specifically, they imagine, like, what can we as Christians and as a church imagine, because they are very much into the imagination. What can we, in a positive way, what can we actually do with our network, with our, that the politicians can't do? And the Christians in Palestine have a very special position because they are respected in a special way, both by all sides. So there is some kind of vision. You could say, yes, it is possible. If you look, sometimes it has happened, and in South Africa it took 10 years. We don't know how many years it will take, but working like artists and the church and all kind of NGOs and people that are not, the politicians are sometimes very tied up. It's at least possible to imagine, like Gilbert says, shall we stop dreaming? Well,
I think there's also a danger of using it as an example. I mean, the social justice in South Africa is today much worse than it was before, because it has become the interest of special classes that have actually gathered more power on their hands. And you could easily visualize the same situation in Palestine with the involvement there, with the PA and the interest of the Emirates and Saudi.
I'm also wondering about, using something so sectarian, because one of the problems in Palestine is that Israel is trying to separate everyone. So, like, the Christians are Christians and they're not actually Muslims, and the Druze are definitely none of them, and the Bedouins are something else. And I'm not quite sure, it's just a question, I don't really know, but assuming that the solution would come from a sect, like from the Christians within Palestine would be the ones to bring peace, is like, or the bridge,
But I said, like, there are lots of different forces working with imagining other options, and they might sometimes be overlapping, and that's if you talk about the critical mass. At once, if you start, there will be points where these could join forces later on.
It could work, because after Oslo, how I remember, in the first week, the people was a bit happy because was somebody support the Palestinians, give the Palestinians the flag, and was no problem to walk in a Palestinian flag. In that time, it was forbidden to walk with a Palestinian flag or to have a Palestinian flag. But since Oslo Agreement, it was okay, and suddenly people can do it through in the face of the soldier, and it was in the beginning, it was a peace, and people start to believe it, but then come the political. In that time, the second Intifada, the Israelis went out from Lebanon, and there was in Lebanon with a lot of military soldiers and machines, and they want to bring this machine back to Israel. You cannot put them in Israel. You need the space where you can put them, and the only space is the West Bank. And then you need to start making action and to change the situation. And this again, a fight start also from the beginning. One day to other day, we start hitting each other again. It's possible if it's really people, if it's in the law, it's okay. You know, and the Nazi killed Jewish people or Gypsy people because it wasn't the law. Was it okay? It was okay if you call Nazi and tell him, okay, I have a neighbor Jew. It was okay. And this is what I mean. If it's okay to have a peace, people will follow that. And if it's okay to have a hit, people will follow that. Where you give power, if you give power in love, people will follow that. But most of the time, from outside, from inside, we are so much pushing with hitting. They want to keep this conflict. I mean, I hear what the Israeli politicians say. We cannot change too much, but we need to keep this conflict. It's like a company need to keep it until maybe Jesus comes. I don't know.
I wonder about this solution, this thing of looking for a solution. Of course, we are living in a global village with a lot of surveillance cameras, everything. I mean, you're using art, I'm using documentary films. There could be surveillance cameras all over the West Bank that people can look at the internet all the time and see the Israelis shooting people. I mean, is seeing changing you? I mean, when you're seeing dead small children, like I was screening here, which no television station did show in Norway. Of course, they always say no, it's too much. Of course, the little baby, I want to say the people sitting and eating and having nice salary, they don't want to see pictures like that. I mean, does it have any effect on you seeing things? I wonder. I mean, does it make you react or does it make you numb? Does it make you passive? Have you done enough by seeing this tonight, or are you going to do something after? I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe it's different between you. Can anybody have a reaction on this dead bodies thing that we showed here? Was it too much?
My reaction is really like, even if I've thought of it intellectually, a lot of times, because I mean, I work with Maris all the time, and I've been engaged in this conflict and this thing for years, but it does make an impression. And it's something else than thinking intellectually. So for me, it's yeah, it does make an impact, and I do get an urge to actually do something about it. So it's there were a lot of discussions about images these days, naturally, and they're strong. There's another language in images than in words, and I think even if it's painful, I think we have to see it. So that's yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah, I think also the sort of thinking about it intellectually and then seeing that it really does make a difference. I mean, we've heard Mats Gilbert talk a lot of times in the Norwegian media and the things that he talks about, the suffering, but to actually see what it really is as much as you can through the images does make an impact. But then the question goes back to you really, what do you want us to feel that we need to do? Because as a human being and as a person, I can sign Maria's petition, and I can support that, and I can support the struggle, but at the same time I feel powerless in the face of that.
I also have a question about that, because of course when you see something like that for the first time or for the first few times, it's devastating. Like I remember the first time I've seen a picture of a dead body, it wasn't even a child. But what if the media would start bombarding you with that? You know, every morning you go, you open the newspaper and you see dead bodies. Would you become numb then?
You get to use it, and then it's not affect you anymore.
I mean, to answer it, it's not easy to just say, no, you have to send some money, or you have to travel there, or you have to invite some people from Palestine to live in Norway to have a better situation. Or so. I mean, there's a lot of small things you maybe can do, but still, like Tali Shapiro was saying, she didn't know anything about the suppression of the Palestinians before she was something around 20 years old, before some people she met was discussing this thing. So they are growing up in a total, bubble in Israel. They don't know about what's really happening. So to be informed is, of course, the first step. And I mean, we have a government here who's maybe a little ignoring about this problem today, but if there is a democracy with informed people, I guess there is more humanists than cynical people, so there will be a change in the politics, so the money is sent. And Norway, for example, has a very important role. I was interviewing the foreign minister Espen Barth Eide when he was traveling around down there, and he was saying that he was maybe going to suggest to abolish the whole ad hoc committee who was sending $1 billion every year from a lot of countries, and Norway was one of them. And then, if he was deciding that and getting the people around, the PA, the Palestinian Authority, would be abolished. And then, from that decision, it would be a more fate from that Norwegian guy. I mean, there is something that Norway really can influence.
I think,
I mean, kind of.
can I come with the feedback also on the violence, the showing the images? Because I think that what it creates when you really show the images of war, and these are not strong images even if you think about what you can really see if you go on the internet, or Thomas Kvam, a Norwegian artist, has published a book where he shows the true pictures of Afghan war or Iraq war, I can't remember now, it's Afghan war I think. Sorry, it's both, right. Where you see the blown up heads, everything, complete horror. And I think what it creates, like the inspiration, the German book from the First World War that is inspired by, is that it is made for us to feel disgusted by violence. And I think that's exactly why you're not showing it on Israeli television, because you make it into some game. They even create games for making it even more into games, so that young people start, only doing the games. So you start to learn that it's not real, but when you are confronted with the gore of it, I think, and if Norwegian television showed the danger, the damage of the Hellfire rocket, which is partly produced in Norway, I think it would have a political effect as well.
I can tell you a very interesting example. I was screening in the Frontline Club, this documentary club at Cinoteket, a film called Silver Water, that Kjetil, you are also going to show that in the Human Rights Festival next month. And that film is so strong, it's from inside Syria. So a lot of people in the audience just left because too much violence, too much death. But Anja Breien was sitting there, and she asked me for a copy of the film later. And she said, I'm going to give this to Jens Stoltenberg. She's together with his father. And she insisted him to see that film. And that is interesting. The NATO commander is actually seeing the violence. Is that going to influence him? I mean, it's interesting to think about. Sometimes there is a person who is seeing something, and maybe that's going to change him a little. Let's hope so. What about you, Kjetil? I mean, you are showing films like that. Isn't that typical? I mean, you must know about it.
There's a question first.
Sorry.
Var det meg nå?
Ja, nå vet jeg det.
I really hate this. Okay, I'm fine. To answer your question, I think I worked at Save the Children for 2 years with violence against children. And one of the main things was to try to make people do something, act upon violence in domestic violence. And if we go out, we work with very strong pictures of violence, people get numb and involves their feelings and get numb but engage their feelings, but they don't do action. So you have to kind of, I'm not against using strong pictures or documentary or telling stories and all the artistic way of showing reality. But you have to also try to find a way so that I can deal with my numbness, so that I can try to do something. If not, I will just be feeling sad, and the situation will be more hopeless. And I will not do anything because I will not dare to, because I don't know. So knowledge is, of course, the main thing. Either it's pictures or articles or whatever you want to use. It also gives me small things I can do. And not just avlat, I don't know the name in English. I don't want to pay. I want to do something. And you have to catch me immediately when I want to do something. And then you have to use that moment so that I don't go out and put money in the box. If you want to engage me. That's one thing which I think. And also, I think it's difficult. I don't work with Save the Children now, so I'm not a representative of that organization. But also, it's two more things. That if I know that when they try to collect money, if they show a lot of children having having a very bad time, people just get numb. If you show happy children surviving in bad areas, people give more money. I'm just saying, I don't know what I think about it, but it's, you can see on the scale of money that, oh, it's working, I give money for happy children, not bad children.
I mean, in any art of a project, if somebody support, everybody will support.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of working, and I do something, and it's not so terrible, and I feel good. So I don't say my feeling about it, I'm just saying as like an information. And the third thing that, it gets too intellectual. It's the discourse, I don't know the word in English. Discourse gets so big. I get afraid, this is maybe just me, I get afraid I'm not smart enough. I'm not a smart person. I cannot engage myself because I can't cope. I'm just not smart enough. So I don't dare to say anything or do anything because it's maybe not so smart. So a very intellectual tilnærming, approach. It's also making you numb if you want to do action. Yeah, my thoughts.
And you're dead now.
I just wanted to add on this, just this about images as well. I mean, like the previous speaker, I'm not against strong images, but if I want strong images, I can just Google myself very quickly to much stronger images than the ones you showed. And I remember in the previous, the last time there was significant bombing in Gaza, my Facebook feed was filled with the same shared videos. I remember one in particular it was particularly shocking, of someone walking with a camera being shot at by a sniper, and seeing a young boy be shot as well. I think they are numbing, and I think that the only thing I'd say about the images that you've just shown us, I know it's only a small excerpt of a much larger piece. It may very well be the case that the film is very different, but I felt the images that you showed were a little bit passive. Even when we heard from people on the ground, we often saw them sort of on their own, walking alone, sitting alone, even despite what they were perhaps saying. There weren't that many images of, if you like, active resistance. I don't mean violent resistance, but people working in unison or collectively change the situation. A lot of the images were sort of, a lot of the things that were said were kind of left a level of frustration that I didn't feel particularly then empowered to act upon. It felt like, well, I know this is frustrating. I know this is the situation. I think a lot of the images we're shown of conflict in the news are of people sort of being either hit by bombs or chucking rockets back. It's the in-between, the sort of everyday resistance that we don't necessarily see. So I just wondered if you do have sort of more images of that. The thing I actually found most shocking in the whole piece wasn't any image, it was actually and I didn't expect this to be the case, was when you actually compared the quotes, is this Holocaust or is this Nakba? I didn't expect that actually to have the same effect, but just that text, by making me imagine the horrific things it described was far more shocking than any image you showed. So I think that says a bit about the diversity of images you show and what kind of because there was a lot more sort of action in those descriptions and perhaps in some of your images. So I think a sort of diversity of images and some positive images, as the last speaker said. I mean, there's been research done, for example, on environmental campaigns where sort of images of flooding and so on and so forth don't really generate a lot of support money, but images of polar bears and sort of fluffy animals and so on and so forth has been shown to produce. I'm not saying you should show that, I'm just saying that there needs to be a sort of a diversity of the images you show, some in perhaps a more active position.
Yeah, well, in relation to the material, we will go in May and film more things, and I got a feeling for a place that's called Batir, in an area close to Jerusalem, which is like like a microcosm of all the problems that you have. You have the wall coming, the tree that I was talking about. It stands at this point. It's the oldest tree maybe in the world, probably not, but it's between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. You have a local resistance against the wall that protects this tree. You even have the local guardian of the tree, and I'm going to interview him, and we're going to film this place. And they have Roman terracing gardens with the aqueduct watering system that is like an eco-system that is still actually working, which is 2,000 years old. So we will use this kind of imagery as well as to produce a complete contrast of just bare human existence, of course, but we're not in there yet to do it. So,
my background is philosophy, so I'm not to say I'm not healthy. I have this kind of intellectual thing, of course. But still, I've been working in newspapers for 20 years, and always for this critical approach. And there's the governments around, and the politicians, and a lot of these people who's really into power. They are so smart. So then there is a protest which is kind of emotionally negative. We don't like this. Do they care? And is there something very positive? Oh, we like these children, or we like these beautiful people or something. Do they care about that? I mean, there's very cynical, this power game going on. So if you don't meet it in the same territorium of this negotiation or whatever, you should use their concepts. So you should go into to see and be a little analytical and see why is this happening because of this and this. Maybe it's not for a theater to do that, but maybe it's more like, but this is a very small theater. I mean, it should maybe be a little level of, that we expect a little knowledge about the situation or something, and then, of course, using them, I mean, film is 60-70% emotions, they say, and then it's written and etc. So it's a lot of emotions. Your heart should be there and you react, but I'm not sure. I'm more into the essay film myself. I like to be a little more like text, film and text. Because I think sometimes we can go deeper into the problem and disclose more. That's my approach, but there are several approaches.
I read about this piece. Is it on? I read about this piece. It wanted to show how, or whether dramatic pieces like this could deal with political situations. So this is an example, and it's not exactly, I mean, it's not the end, as I read about it, it's an example, I feel. And I think it's very effective, really. And I think, for instance, this flag, this one state flag, I think that is, I mean, everyone is talking about this one state solution. And I think this is very illustrative. One can imagine what would this country be called? And what kind of flag would this country have? That is one thing. But there's so many actors that never are on the stage, unfortunately, I think. Like, once I was in a small party group in the Norwegian parliament, together with the Palestinian, later on, ambassador. It's not, and I said, have you been here before? And he said, yes, many, many times. This question is almost like a domestic politics here in Norway. And I said, well, you know, we are so ashamed about the Oslo Accord. And then he said, well, you shouldn't be so ashamed, but the Arab states should be ashamed. And so why are never the Arabs in the picture? It's so tired of this Oslo Accord, and the Palestinians, funnily enough, they are very fond of the Norwegians. Without the Oslo Accord, whatever wrong it did, there would never be an application for the international court. Never, ever. Because the Oslo Accord gave the institutions. So there are two sides of this thing. But of course it did a lot of evil. But I think this flag is something that can be on the stage, perhaps. Because it's very good, really. Thanks.
Thank you. But I'm not sure that the Norwegian did the Oslo agreement to make a problem. I'm sure they come in good way to find a solution. And they manage. And this is what I mean. If we think automatically about the conflict there, and not trying to find who is in the shame, who started the conflict, and just thinking optimistically and trying to find a solution. Oslo was kind of solution, but doesn't work. It doesn't mean we need to stuck there and we not to be ashamed and it doesn't go to work. We need to go over and to find a solution, because you have a person that's already sick. You need to find a medicines. It's not who is it give him this drugs now. Who put him in this situation? It doesn't really help. Now we are sick there. We need a solution. We don't need to find who is it to start the conflict. Because it's going to be in the future, people that don't have anything to do with the conflict now. It's our case is the future. They will not have any reaction with, they're not part of this conflict now. And we make kids, you know. Maybe they will find a solution.
By abolishing the Oslo. By abolishing it, you have a solution.
Yes.
I
tell you the Oslo agreement, I believe in peace, but I don't know how many people believe in peace. But when was Oslo agreement, I believe in peace. I went to Israel. I lived there 6 years until the second Intifada. If I don't believe it's a peace, I don't went there, you know. But it was a good beginning, but doesn't work. It doesn't mean we need to give over and we need to feel ashamed, because if you feel ashamed, you don't find a solution. You will have depression and you will sit in the corner and get drunk.
First, I want to thank everybody, because for me it's a big. I'm very grateful that we all sit here and talk about it. So that's my first comment. But going back to the beginning, when you asked about our opinions on the piece, I was thinking about when you talked about Nakba, because my wish, next time I'm an audience and watch this, the piece when it's getting more advanced, or on the next stage, is that maybe it could be
a good idea to include us more as audiences, because I think that, because we say, oh, it was really strong about the Nakba. It's strong about the Nakba comparison to Holocaust because we know what Nakba is. If you don't know what Nakba is, as I didn't know before, I live in Marius, so that's why I know. And I said, oh yeah, it's this text about Holocaust and Nakba. And it's, yeah, okay, but what is Nakba? Maybe I was stupid, but if you don't know what, so as I feel quite often in the piece, is that you talk about on this and this word, as we all should know about it. And I don't know. And then going back to what Monica said, I'm not intellectual enough for this piece, sorry. And then I was very grateful for True's footage, because it feels, okay, I understand the codes. So I enjoyed, thought it was strong, good text, interesting, but to try to make it more, not that we're not numb, and we want to do stuff. I want to know more. I want to know. I don't know. You're in this. You've been in this for 2 years, and I haven't. So who do you want to talk to? What do you want to do? What is it for you? Is it for the Palestinian committee? Is it for it? And that's good. That's fine. It's good. It's also good because I think it's good to make theaters that's for a small group. It's good because you always have the butterfly effect. It's not good. But just maybe to think, could it be nice for us to know what Nakba is for the one who doesn't know? Because I think it will be much, much, much stronger. It was that text was much stronger for me when I knew that Nakba was the execution of all the Palestinians in the 48.
The ethnical cleansing.
Yeah, but not everybody knows it, and we should know. We should know. Because I live with you, Marius, not because I saw this performance. Because I asked you, what is Nakba? I don't sit there, what is Nakba? I don't understand anything.
Yeah, but Nina, I agree.
No, it's just, it's not a critique, it's
I just want to say one thing about it. It's
not a critique.
The Palestine-Israel conflict is, I've been working with it some years now, and it's still like this all the time. It's so complicated. There's so much resolutions and so many things that have happened. So to be able to kind of invite people that don't have this knowledge into this extremely complicated, but we will try as best as we can to give the information that we think is needed, no? To get the most important points. So I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. It's not a critique, it's just to know who do we want to talk to.
Can I say something?
I don't like it.
I think you're really right, and thank you for that. But I also think it's really, really interesting because when you speak to normal people on the street in Norway about what's happening when it was, massacres in Gaza, and people are saying, we're too tired of it, we just don't want to know, we don't open it. If you start a conversation, you're like, sorry, I have to go home right now, my wife is waiting, because we are too bored. And what you're saying, we are too bored, but we don't know anything about it.
No, I'm not saying you're bored. I say I want to know
No,
more.
I know, but what I'm reflecting upon the normal, a lot of Norwegians are saying we know too much, we don't want to hear about it, we are bored of it, but obviously at the same time there is also a gap of knowledge, which I think is very interesting.
It's a big difference to talk to Palestinians than to Norwegians, so that goes back to the very first question, why are we in Oslo? Why do you want to show this to us? But I'm very happy that we do it.
Thank you.
So it's not
I think there is one thing in this piece, just to say that, which is about solution and the future. I mean, one thing is the massacres back in Nakba and everything, but did you get this in this play that he was talking about this nuclear disaster that could expel all the Palestinians out? Over the West Bank, was that grasped by you? Because that's so interesting about the future. This can happen. they can do a big accident down there and get people out and never let them in again. I mean, about future scenarios, about visions or future.
We've been into that. Like also one of the big conflicts, of course, around Temple Mount. There are living cells inside Israel that really want to eradicate the temple dome and the mosque as well, but the temple dome is the most important, and to build the third temple. And they had tried before. They were taken and they were let out of prison after a very, very short sentence because they were in connection to the politicians that later came into government.
But I wonder how many of you got that point from this discussion, the text. Was there anybody?
We actually chopped half.
We chopped half with it. There is only 3 or 4 who got that point.
I thought it because I talked with Marius before.
I mean, this is important how much we communicate.
If you want to tell that, why don't you tell us? I mean, why use the theatre for that? I cannot see the point using theatre because you could do it like this and tell me.
Yeah.
That's a question because I think bring people from the refugee center to the stage from all around Oslo and bring them on stage and let's meet them and they can tell us and we can meet them. I don't know, it's not a critic, I like that you do that. I come here and I like that we talk about this. But I think to get an impact, I mean, you are so intellectual here. Bring people who has this on their body. And make it drama. I mean, use the theatre for that. I think, I mean, I like to do this.
Yeah, but I totally agree. And there are so many theatre people here, so I mean, the next years will be full of pieces. You do.
The point is really, really good.
Yeah.
Because the point is about what Naomi Klein talks about. It's about the shock doctrine. So it's a really, really big point that is really good, and it's a good text, Marius. But we don't get it because we don't know what you're talking about. Because what's the MoMA? What is it? We don't know. But if you knew just a short text, you can do whatever, and then we understand, fuck, you're using a nuclear power plant to, you know, and it happens all the time. We can use the theatre for that. We don't need refugee camps and shit. We can say it, we just... Okay, we will
just have to say that, I mean, it's really simple. I totally agree with Nina, and I think I absolutely disagree with Thomas here, that it's not a good thing to do it on the stage, but you have to lead us inside. Because if we're inside the idea, then the impact is so much bigger. But it's really simple. It's like letting us a little key, and then
it's not simple. It's just a big problem about theatre.
No. My idea is that it's actually simple. You can tell it. In theatre, you can actually tell things really clear, and then you sort of get the idea, and then it can be as complicated as it can be. I mean, I love that it's complicated, but I need some keys. And I love to try to decode, but if it's too much decoding, I fall off. Yeah. So it's a question about keys, and I love it in this context. I love to hear those. I knew a little bit beforehand, and I was very happy to actually have that knowledge. But it's an issue.
I'm very curious about. I mean, Kjetil, you have been running 10 years documentary cinema with a lot of films about the Middle East. I mean, is there a difference between theater and cinema in this to engage people? Is it more? I mean, you're here. Talk outside.
Yeah, siste spørsmål.
I would also like to come with a feedback or a comment to Thomas. I think that in the world we live in, I don't think that we can say that we need the Palestinian or we need the starving person in wherever Sudan that is going on now, for us to relate to this problem. It's a part of, definitely very much part of the same world. And when you see how things are connected, and of course maybe we're not very good at this doing this right now, but anyway, when you see how things are connected together, like I told you about the Hellfire rocket and how it's used in wartime and it's produced here, when you show these links between the high politics in our small world, or what you like to call it, I think this is effective if we are able to do it. That's another. It's simple, but it's very difficult to do it well as well. Yeah, I think, for instance, when it comes to the MoMA or the Temple Dome, the Temple Dome is completely important for us. It's not because it's the center of Islam or anything like this. It's because if something happens there, it will influence us so greatly that we will not know it before it hits us. But if it happens, it will change all the situation in the Middle East. And we have Middle East here.
I mean, for Europe, it will be, if it's some bomb happen, like a bomb, big bomb happen there, you don't have a space for Jesus, If Jesus should land there, you need the airport for Jesus. It's the only space can Jesus come.
Yeah,
I think I will answer for maybe for the theater. I think it's important to have it in the theater because I think you take from your private life 1 or 2 hours and say, okay, I'm going to the theater to listen what is going on there. And if you stop somebody in the street, it will stay in the street somewhere. And I think everybody was normally like human. If you tell him about some subject, he will take the folder from the brain, he open, okay, you talk with him about Palestine, he open the folder about Palestine, he tell you everything you know about Palestine, and cover maybe he will add something in the folder, or delete another something, and bring the folder back to the brain. And this is how human work. And I'm sure before, the people before come here, they was imagining. The problem we always imagine in the brain for something. And this is what I think in the theater. I'm sure that you was thinking something else, and today it's to tell something new. And normally I'm sure it's every show about Israel and Palestine. It's you want to show how much the Palestinians suffering, how much all the Israelis suffering. It's always like this if dealing the Israel-Palestinian things. Every time, they're looking where to make more pro-Palestinians, where to more pro-Israelians. But today I'm optimistic because we don't cry until now about that people in some way.
Super.
Because normally after something dealing with Israel Palestine, we get without energy outside and depression and don't know what to do. And I hope everybody from now start just thinking automatically. I don't know, just thinking about like a yoga. I don't know, stupid thing. Just think about it automatically, maybe we'll find a solution. Thank you for coming.
Vad säger du?